Okay, welcome back. This is Final Cut Pro tutorial number 2. This one is just really going to be looking at what you're looking at right now, which is the Final Cut Pro screen. Obviously, you can see here I've highlighted Final Cut Pro is within this. When you click into this, it'll load. It will take a little bit of time depending on what it is. It would normally load up the previous project, okay, that you've been working on. Obviously, if you're new and you haven't got any previous projects, it's going to open up and it's going to come up saying Untitled Project 1. What you can do then is you can save that. Make sure you save it as somewhere that's useful to you. So for example, I can save it in here, and let's call this tutorial number 2 and save, and there automatically it becomes tutorial number 2. Okay, so once we're into that, what we've got is we're faced with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 windows and 2 kind of toolbar, kind of styled toolbars on the right hand side. You can change your setup if you want to. I won't talk about that. I'm just going to talk about this. And let's just go through these really quickly then. Okay, so we have the browser window here, right? Okay, so this is basically where you're going to put all your files. Anything that you're working on, from image to video to audio, anything will be going in this browser window here. It tells you a big range of information about each of the things that's in there, as you can see as I pull it across. Okay, I'm not going to talk about every single thing that's in there, but it will basically, the most important thing is it'll tell you your duration, your in and your out points. They're the most important thing that you'll be needing. Okay, so you can put everything into that. I won't tell you how, I'll do that later. And also you have your effects. Okay, so you've got favorites, which as you can see is this bin here. Okay, and now this is where I've put a few of my favorite things that I like to use, for example cross dissolve, crossfade and text, but I'll talk a little bit more about that. You've got video transitions, so obviously when you want to use a transition, video filters, anything you want to do to the actual video, video generators, which are things like text, audio transitions, obviously the audio version of a video transition, audio filters, so again this might be something you're doing to it, and master templates. Don't really need to worry about these. These will be, for example, you can see here lots of different things that might have some kind of background template, etc., or something like that, but I mean you don't need to particularly worry about that. Okay, so that's your browser window. Underneath that, I talked a little bit about a minute ago, is your favorites. You can actually put any kind of transitions or generators or anything like that within your favorites window and have it open. You can find it in your window and favorites, and you click that and it would open. Okay, so obviously if I close it and I go, I want to see my favorites, I click it and it opens. Okay, so you can put anything you want in there, which is great. This is your viewer. Okay, so this is where you view clips, images, before you start putting any kind of edit onto them. So this is where you can cut the in and the out points, so you can trim the files, you can rearrange the audio. In here you can make it higher, make it lower, put some filters on it. Here, put any kind of video filters on it. And you can change your motion. So you can make it bigger, you can rotate it, you can change the center points, you can crop it, you can distort it, you can change the opacities, do some drop shadows and motion blurs, and something that's probably best for After Effects, but you can do a simple time remapping. But this is basically where you do your before editing. Okay, so you can drop your clips from the browser into here, do a little edit before you then move it into the timeline. Okay, so the timeline is where you do a majority of your work. Okay, so you'll be working in here, and this is where you'll end up with your final edit. That's basically what the timeline is. I'm not going to talk much more on that. And then the canvas is what shows what is on the timeline. Okay, so if there's something on the timeline, it'll show up onto the canvas. So for example, let me just really quickly import something. I'll import this just to give you an idea of what it happens. So you double click and it goes, see there, it drops into this, and then drag it into this. Don't need to worry about that, I'll match it, it's fine. Okay, you see it's now in the timeline and it shows up in the canvas. Okay, this is the first Final Cut Pro tutorial that I've just worked on, I think, maybe, I'm not sure. But anyway, so it just pops up, it shows in the canvas. Okay, so it goes from the browser to the viewer, to the timeline, to the canvas. Okay, which is great. Very simple, really easy to use. I'll go into more depth later. These are your tools. So there's a few different things you can do with these. The most important one is your selection tool. So you click this and you can select whatever you want in the browsers, in the sequences, in the timelines, in the viewers, in the canvas. You can select using this. Okay, I'll do another tutorial on what each of these actually does in the next one. But there's a few things you can see there. You've got an edit selection tool, select track forward, roll tool, slip tool, razor blade tool, zoom in, crop, and pen tool. Obviously there's extensions to all of these. For example, you see they've all got extensions, but this is a whole tutorial in itself, which I will do a little bit later. This is your audio. Okay, so if I play this, just a few kind of pointers along the way that you can change, maybe you'd like to amend, etc. There you go, you can see that this bounces up and down, checking your audio levels. And that's it. That's quite simple. It just means you can balance your audio properly. Okay, great. Well, there's a really quick look at the kind of overview of what is on the screen when you actually open and get onto Final Cut Pro. The next tutorial I'll be looking at something a bit more interesting. Okay, well, thanks for joining and see you next time.